I just recently had a person who got themselves, and I say they got themselves because, you know, I coached, I got barriers out of the way and everything else, but they were able to get themselves out of a nursing home, get themselves a job. They're in a wheelchair, been in a nursing home for 2 years. And, you know, their story was quite a traumatic one, but they were able to put themselves back on the road.
Could you tell us one story, change the name, we don't need the real name,
sure.
One story that you can tell of a person who ended up in a hospital due to an accident or something, their path to recovery, so that we can actually get a good feel on one story? Well,
the one I was just talking about, suicide attempt, and had given up hope because developed a major, I'm not even going to give the sex or anything, just they developed a major disease, didn't think there was going to be life after developing that disease, attempted suicide, ended up in a nursing home as a result, and didn't think there would be life again as they once knew it. A professional in the medical industry for years, and had totally given up. And one day, one of my work colleagues was there giving a speech about living back in the community, and this person went up to them and he gave that person my name. And within 2 months, that person was back out working back in their profession. Not fully doing like filing work and stuff, but working in medical industry, doing paperwork and filing and office work, and has their own apartment and living successfully. And looking at the person, they're much happier, they look much healthier than they did in the nursing home. And they didn't think there'd be life. They've told me, I didn't think there'd be life again. And there is. So.
Have you had clients you work with cry when you go and talk with them? Is that, they're emotional many times? Or?
Yeah, yeah. And that's due to that lack of hope, you know. Yeah, and everybody's got their own timing, and I will not push people getting out of an institution. That's up to them, you know. A lot of people find out word of mouth. That's what I do, and they either come to me or they don't. My job isn't to sell them on the idea of getting out. Their job is to sell themselves on the idea of getting out. So,
what was the rudest thing that anybody ever did to you in your work? Did anybody ever throw anything at you?
Oh, that's a funny question. No, I mean, outside of maybe blowing me off when I showed up and not being there, I can't think of anything bad. I've never, and up to this point, not jinxing myself, I haven't had anything bad. So,
have you found it to be true that the more dedicated the person is to the idea that they can't get out of the home when you first meet them, the better they'll do and the faster they'll get out when they finally see they can? I mean, is there any kind of relationship between those who initially are very, very negative, I just can't, I just can't, and then how quickly they move versus somebody who's maybe more moderate in their view? Do you find that the different mental positions move differently across the spectrum?
Yeah, as you were saying that, I thought of some people who, when I first met them, there wasn't the least bit inkling that they could possibly have a life again. And then next thing I know, they're doing everything they can to get out. And then there was other people who begged me and begged me and begged me and did absolutely nothing. so yeah, there is that kind of inverse thing sometimes where what's coming out of their mouth isn't necessarily what's really going on in the inside. But there's certain signs you see when you do it long enough. There's certain signs you see. You know who to invest the time in, and you know where it's going to go once you invest the time, because you just get to know people. So.
Is it your sense that life is fair?
No, absolutely not. You learn that the hard way, though. Yeah, life is not fair.
So life is not fair, but anyone can apply their strength of spirit to move forward.
Absolutely.
In the position they're in.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite stories about that was the story in World War II of England and what happened in Europe, where Hitler's troops took over France in 2 to 3 weeks. The whole continent was under Nazi control, and the sole ones that stood alone against Hitler were the little island, England. And the money wasn't on England.
No, that's for sure.
But with inside of a couple of years, by applying themselves, they were able to confront what had been one of the most successful military organizations and political organizations in terms of a totalitarian regime the world's ever seen, and ended that conflict as the victor. Interesting that I had my own personal experience with it, which sounds, you know, it's kind of a trite story, but I was playing tennis one day against a player who was much, much better than I was. I was a team captain. I was the worst player on the team. And I played the best guy, and I beat him. And I just threw the racket down and started laughing and screaming. And he said, what? I said, the fact that I could even beat you once in life, it just blows my mind. You know,
the thrill of victory.
I don't play tennis anymore. But it's just, there's times when life presents to you a picture and you say, life can be even more than we envision it. And sometimes life exceeds expectations.
Absolutely.
Have you seen life exceed expectations?
For myself?
For anyone?
Yeah, I've seen it for myself, and I've seen it for other people who say, I'm optimistic when it comes to other people. I know they can do most people can do far more than they think they can. But from the world's perspective, I think a lot of people thought people couldn't do things that they ended up doing, and so yeah, I've seen a lot of people exceed expectations.
If I were to ask the average person in society, what is your vision of somebody who works with the government or assists in programs that serve government organizations? They're not going to think of you. And then they're not going to think of your organization, the Western New York Independent Living, Inc. I mean, you're kind of very different from the perspective people have of governmental activity.
I'm told that all the time. So yeah, I know. To truly fight for other people, I think, no, I don't think I know. I know you have to be born with that kind of spirit. You've got to have something inside of you that says, I'm going to do the right thing. And I know that's what makes me up. I don't have any explanation for that. It wasn't all of a sudden one day that happened. I was born that way. I was just like I was born with half an arm. I was born thinking that, to do the right thing and to help other people achieve whatever they can achieve. I mean, that's how I've lived my life, achieve whatever I can for the betterment of the world around me, not at the expense of the world around me, and that's how I think. And I think you have to have that kind of thinking, but I don't think it's something you develop. I think it's something you've always had, or you don't have.
So it's almost like, in some instances, our thinking makes it so. Thank you so much for joining us on Medical Matters.
Thank you, Dave.
We'll see you again soon. For more Medical Matters television shows, go online to medicalmatters.tv.